Hi, I'm John DeVore. Welcome to the channel. Today's video, well, I want to talk about my office, which I call Monkeyhaus, a little bit, and I want to talk about its aesthetic. And the reason for that is the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is the industrial park that DeVore Fidelity is based in now for over 20 years. It's an industrial park. It obviously, as it's called, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, it used to be a naval shipyard. Many warships were built here, battleships, going all the way back to the 19th century. But in the 70s, I'm pretty sure it was the 70s, the Navy gave it over to the city of New York to make it industrial space. And but of course, in New York City in the 70s and even in the 80s to some extent, New York City was broke. They didn't really have anything to invest in anything. But there were a few businesses that started out. But gradually, over time, and I've seen this just in the 20 years that I've been here, over time, the Navy Yard has gone from 50-50 big abandoned industrial buildings and filled, quasi-renovated buildings filled with businesses and manufacturing and things like that. For example, all the sets for Saturday Night Live, they're all built here in the Navy Yard. So gradually, say about 20 years ago when we moved in, it was kind of like that, 50-50, to now all the buildings are completely renovated. There's actually new construction in here. There's companies on a waiting list trying to get into the Navy Yard space. And so also gradually, the city has been essentially modernizing the buildings one by one in the Navy Yard, bringing them up to some sort of codes. For the 20 years that we've been here, codes are sort of thrown out the window. The elevators are exempt from inspections and often broke. So it's been a little bit of an adventure here. But now things are sort of catching up, and they're modernizing the buildings and they're bringing them up to code, as I said. And that means that Monkeyhaus, which is my office here, which was basically gradually built over many years here in the space, shit's gonna happen. And at some point, either it's my whole office is gonna have to be some sort of retrofitted, or it's gonna have to be torn down to the ground and rebuilt. And so that got me thinking. Anyone who's been here, certainly, and even some of the videos that I've put on this channel, you can see that in every direction that you look, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of stuff in this room. Festooned. There are obviously, even if we just take away the music media, all the records and cassettes and tapes and everything like that on the walls, vintage hi-fi gear, pretty much every square inch of wall space has art hanging on it. Any shelves that are not filled with records or gear have tchotchkes of all sorts on there. This in relation to recent news that many are finding sort of very satisfying, that Marie Kondo has had to give up her ultra minimalist way of being in light of having a few kids. So she's confessed. She previously confessed a few years ago, and I may be making this up, I don't know, but I feel like she previously confessed that the whole Marie Kondo aesthetic welled up from her own neurotic tendencies, maybe her OCD or, something, this sort of compulsive cleanliness. And hey, more power to her, how to transform a neurosis into a business plan. But now that she has a few kids or a couple of kids, she's confessed that she no longer can maintain her Marie Kondo-ness. And her house is cluttered and it doesn't bother her, I guess. So there's a lot of people that are feeling very satisfied about this, I'm sure, out there. I, for one, when the whole Kondo thing came out, I was never a subscriber. And one look at my surroundings and you can tell that it's just not my style. For me, happiness and joy is sparked not by visual austerity, but by sort of like an old growth forest mentality of everywhere I look, there is a story. There's something there. There's juxtapositions that are interesting to me. That is the way that over the 12 or 15 years now that Monkeyhaus has been organically growing, that's the way that it is developed. Record collection has grown to fill nooks and crannies. Tchotchkes have been displaced or added to, or acoustics have been adjusted, things like that. Furniture in and out, cats in and out. And it has essentially just sort of become this comfortable space. And people always comment when they come in, wow, this is an amazing space. Or they just stand there and they just look around for a little while. So it's not an uncomfortable space. It's an incredibly inviting space. And so this is in defense of a cluttered space. Just like austerity can be good and bad, cluttered can be good and bad. For me, Monkeyhaus represents good cluttered. And a celebrity, so let's say that Marie Kondo represents austerity. For me, the celebrity that best represents a cluttered but joyful space is Adam Savage. Adam Savage has a YouTube channel. Adam Savage Tested, I think the channel is called. But Adam Savage became famous for Mythbusters. He was the co-host of Mythbusters with Jamie. And Adam Savage, he was a model builder at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, which was the model shop and effects company started by George Lucas with Star Wars in the mid-70s. And it is sort of a mecca for sci-fi geeks and model geeks and prop geeks. And Adam Savage on his channel, he talks about building. He's a builder. He's part of the builder community. He always prefers to make over buy. And I have a lot of sympathy for that perspective as well. So he did a series of videos on a really pretty major build that he was doing over COVID. So early in COVID, a close friend of his died. And as he describes in this series of videos, so it's a series of videos where he decides he's going to build a replica of Samaritan. Samaritan it's a prop gun used in Hellboy. In the Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy movies, I think the first two were Guillermo del Toro directed and written. And what he did when he wrote those movies is that he took the Mike Mignola Hellboy character, who had a huge pistol, big sidearm, and he gave it a little bit more backstory, and he named it the Samaritan. So it's a giant revolver for a giant Hellboy as a sort of a supernatural superhero. Anyway, so that's the mythos of this prop that Adam Savage is going to build. And he machines the entire piece. It's all made out of metal and or appropriate materials. He machines bullets for it. He machines all of the parts. It's a revolver, so even the bore of the cylinder gets rifled. It's an amazing, amazing build. Incredible in-depth build. And the end result is one of the most exquisite prop replicas ever. Even calling it a replica seems like a disservice to it. And along the way, he talks about the build being a soothing experience. He uses the build and the meticulous and absolutely mental level of detail that he's going into, and Adam Savage also he's a nut. He's brilliant. He's fantastic, but he's also wears his OCD on his sleeve, and it's wonderful to watch. And you see him occasionally battling it and talking about it and laughing about it, and it's a wonderful experience. Anyway, so his videos are very soothing to me. And a couple of times in this series of videos, he has all of the parts for his Samaritan build laid out on his workbench, whether it's a teardown or whether it's a rebuild. And he uses the term knolling, Knolling. So it's a verb. The root word of the verb is knoll, and that's based on the furniture company, this sort of industrial office furniture, legendary furniture company, and the founder of that. Her vision was just these beautiful, everything right angles and clean, good storage solutions. and things sort of laid out in ways that are easy to find. And the term knolling, I don't think Tom Sachs was the first to use it, but the artist Tom Sachs was sort of the first to really promote it. And he actually did a whole manifesto in a notebook of his, and it's beautiful. But anyway, the term knolling means the laying out of a number of objects in this sort of parallel or perpendicular pattern. And it's a beautiful way to display all of the parts that go together into something, or it's a great way to display a collection of things that maybe relate to one another. And it's a very satisfying, for me, in a way, and certainly for like Adam Savage, it's a very satisfying activity, meditative, and you're essentially doing a micro-macro Marie Kondo to all of these bits. So of the more than 100 pieces of the Samaritan prop replica, every screw, every detail of it, every little machined piece, the trigger and all the mechanisms that attach the trigger to the hammer, and it's just this meticulous and beautiful and loving practice. And so I'm cutting shots of different views of Monkeyhaus here, and that's really all this video is. It's a little bit of a love letter to Adam Savage and to all the people out there for whom the Marie Kondo thing really wasn't a good fit, and it didn't make any sense, and for whom being ensconced in beauty and minutia and being surrounded by objects that one loves, the art on the walls, everything around here means something to me. There's nothing here really that doesn't belong. Art is by family or dear friends, sidestepping the music. The tchotchkes are, many of them are art pieces. I've got little things made by my kid, things gifted to me by dear friends. It's just everywhere I look, there's something that makes me happy or makes me think about something, or that may relate to something that I'm doing. And so I hope you enjoyed this sort of a nonsensical ramble through Monkeyhaus. And thanks for watching, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.